Welcome, my fellow Zambians, to the sixth of our weekly conversations. A brief word for anyone joining us for the first time. This work is entitled In Dialogue with My President. In truth, it is a monologue, one citizen speaking to his head of state, hoping that his word reaches not only the president, but every leader and every citizen. Tonight, we speak of the question that has tested every Zambian president since independence: corruption and equal justice, without sacred cows. Good evening, Your Excellency, President Hakainde Hichilema. Good evening, my fellow Zambians. Tonight, we talk about corruption. But underneath that word sits a bigger question. Can the law keep every Zambian safe in the same way? Mr. President, in your inaugural address, you said, there will be no sacred cows. The country heard you. Your administration took back stolen money and houses and built a special court just for such crimes. Real work was done here, Mr. President. Honor to you for it. Now, let me speak of a report card. In plain words, there is a group trusted all over the world called Transparency International. Every year, like a teacher marking a class, they give each country a mark out of 100. Mr. President, as you know, the cleaner the country, the higher the mark. For 3 years, Zambia's mark climbed. Then this year, our mark fell from 39 back down to 37. And of 182 countries marked, we slipped 7 places, from number 92 to number 99. It was the first time in 5 years that our mark had dropped. Transparency International told us why. They said it looks as though public money is being quietly turned toward friends and favored business people now that the election is near. Mr. President, this is not yet a finding of guilt. It is, however, like the warning light on a car. A wise driver does not cover the warning light with a cloth. He stops, opens the bonnet, and looks. Hear what that mark really is, Mr. President, for it carries the heart of tonight. It does not count every bribe. It measures something quieter: what people believe. Some will say, that is only what people think. Therefore, it's not important. But what people think is the whole thing. A farmer who believes the scale of the depot is fixed stops bringing his best maize. A young person who believes the job is already kept for a cousin of a senior person in the system stops trying honestly. A businessman who believes the contract is already given takes his money to another country, and the jobs live with him. The World Bank, as you know, Mr. President, which lends money to nations and watches these things closely, has found that when a country is believed to be full of corruption, it can push up the cost of doing any business there by as much as a tenth. That means for every 100 kwacha a business would have spent, it pays out about 10 kwacha more, only because the country is believed to be dirty. That is a tax no parliament ever passed, and the poor pay the most of it. So, corruption must be fought twice. First, in what is real, the envelope, the swollen contract, the cousin on the payroll. And second, in what is believed. For a nation that comes to believe it is corrupt will, in time, become the very thing it feared. Let us be plain about what corruption costs in clinics and classrooms. The United Nations, through its Trade and Development Body, looked at the whole of Africa. Every year, around 88 billion United States dollars leaves this continent through dishonest means. That is almost as much as all the aid and foreign investment Africa receives put together. Gone. And Mr. President, here is the part that should keep every leader awake at night. The same study found that the African countries where this theft runs high spend far less on their people. For every 100 kwacha the cleaner countries put into the health of their people, the ones eaten by corruption put in 25 kwacha less. And for every 100 kwacha put into the schooling of their children, they put in 58 kwacha less, which is more than half. That is, as you know, Mr. President, the true price of corruption. It is paid at the clinic that was never built, and the desk the child never sat at. And the country is asking another question, Your Excellency. Not whether you are fighting corruption or not. The country can see that you are. The question is whether the fight is felt by every Zambian to fall with the same weight in every direction. The Catholic bishops raised it in their pastoral letter of the 13th of January, calling for a level playing field and issue-based campaign. Senior lawyers have raised it. Some of your own allies have raised it. It is not a hostile question, Mr. President. It is a question of hope, of please complete what you started. Mr. President, you, of all Zambians, know the cost of a law that does not fall evenly. You have been on the receiving end of it. You have been arrested. You have watched the heavy hand of the state land in a place that was not just. Your persecution, I must say, Your Excellency, is not your blemish. It is, if you so choose, your map. No one is better qualified for the work of equal justice than the one who has stood inside its gates. Let's listen, Your Excellency, to three voices. They will not speak. You and I will listen. The first is Chimwemwe Piri, a young prosecutor. She has noticed the files on her desk follow a pattern she did not design. She is asking in private whether her career is being served or whether justice is. The second is a former official under investigation for 3 years. By every reasonable account, he has done real wrong. He asks why his case moves while others, closer to power, do not. He is not sympathetic, but his question is not unreasonable. Third, is Wupe Soko, an ordinary citizen in Nakonde. She has watched 4 administrations promise to end corruption, and 4 administrations replace the names without replacing the system. She voted for you in 2021, Mr. President. She believed this new dawn would make a difference. Mr. President, as you are a man of scripture, I thought I should make reference to the Bible. There is a man in the Bible whose whole life was an anti-corruption commission. Daniel served a foreign king and rose so high, the king planned to set him over the whole realm. His rivals were jealous. So they opened investigations, just like any jealous characters would do, going through Daniel's accounts and his conduct, looking for the smallest stain they could find. Nor was any error or fault found in him. His enemies were forced to admit it. We shall not find any charge against this Daniel, they said, unless it concerned the law of his God. The only thing they could use against him was his prayer. Think of that, Mr. President. A government where even your own enemies, even those who hate you and want your office, cannot find a single way out of place. That is not naivety. That is the highest security a leader can build. The clean leader cannot be blackmailed, captured, or owned. And Your Excellency, this joins our weekly theme. The third and last time the Lord pressed the question on Simon Peter. Feed my sheep. To feed is to see that the flock receives what is theirs. And corruption is the hand that lifts the food from the trough while the sheep look on. The shepherd who feeds his own friends from the flock's portion, even once, even quietly, has stopped feeding the sheep. Mr. President, the fight against corruption and the work of equal justice begin in the same place. The example a leader sets. So first, disarm the disappearance of selective justice with plainness. If there is a figure within your own circle whose conduct deserves the same scrutiny applied elsewhere, allow the scrutiny. Do not protect. If there is none, say so plainly with evidence, and the country will accept the answer. Plainness is the friend of trust. Let me name plainly what I am humbly asking for. It is radical openness, radical transparency. You declared your assets in 2021 as the law required, and that was right. But that declaration was made quietly, and its detail was never opened to the public. The law does not force a sitting president to declare in public, and it is your shield if you choose to reach for it. Yet, Mr. President, you stood so strongly against corruption before you held this office that when you keep your own wealth out of public view, it can be misread, even where there is nothing at all to hide. And that is what has set people talking. So the question is not anymore whether you declared. It is whether you are willing to be seen. Some will say radical openness is just too much to ask of a president or of any leader. With respect, it is not. And I say it is not for 2 reasons. The first reason, Mr. President, is your own voice. When you campaigned, you lifted the hope of this nation and made us believe that corruption can be beaten. You may never have spoken the words radical openness, radical transparency, but it is what we heard in you, in your resolve. And it was part of what drew us to your side. The second reason is the office itself. The country placed in your hands a power few ever hold, and only to serve every citizen. That is an exchange. The people hand their leader great power and reach, and in return, the leader lets them see. They give up a little so that he may do much, and he in return hides nothing. The higher the office, the more open its holder must be. In private life, a person can keep their own counsel, but public service, as you know, Mr. President, is a trust. And openness is how that trust is repaid. And I say this to every leader who hears me, not just to you, Mr. President. Perhaps this is why Plato, searching long ago for the finest rulers, dreamt of philosopher kings who would own nothing, yet lack nothing, so that nothing sat upon their minds but the needs of the people. We have not built that world, but its wisdom still holds. Whoever steps forward to lead lays down, for that period of time, his own wants and his own gain. That is not too much to ask, Your Excellency. It is the extra mile the law cannot command, and a small price for the privilege and power the office wields. Kindly further cement the independence of the anti-corruption institutions into the bonds of the law, so that the next officers can serve even when it does not serve the president of the day. Build for the next president, not only for yourself. And Your Excellency, you would not be walking a new road. Others have walked it before you, and they were not perfect, but they show what real effort looks like. Look first at our neighbor, Botswana. It did not form a committee and forget after its own scandals. In 1994, it built by law a standing body to fight corruption, one that investigates, prevents, and even teaches school children that a clean hand is a strong hand. It is not a spotless story. For years, the body was accused of being soft on the big and hard on the small, but it outlived every president who came and went. They did not build for one term. They built a habit a whole nation could keep. Then look further at Georgia. Once so corrupt, you could not drive 10 kilometers without a police officer stopping your car for a bribe. To wear the uniform, a man first paid a bribe, knowing he would earn it back on the road. Then, in one bold stroke, the government dismissed its entire traffic police, every single officer, and built a new force, paid properly, and watched closely. Then fines started going into a bank and never into a pocket. Almost overnight, the everyday bribe vanished. Yet even there, the cure was not complete. The small bribes ended, but the quiet favors among the powerful did not. That is the warning folded inside the lesson, Mr. President. Cleaning the street is not the same as building the courts and habits that outlast one strong leader. So the request here, Your Excellency, is build both, the bold act and the lasting habit. The young man in Chawama, the retired clerk in Kabwe, the opposition member in Kalingalinga must each feel the law sees them the same. You have known, Mr. President, what it is to lose the feeling of safety because of the office of another person. let the country never know that feeling again under your watch, whichever way the August result lands. Your Excellency, here are a few questions for you to ponder before you sleep. Can the law fall the same way on a friend as on a stranger? Who in your own circle have you held to account by name? What will those who serve beneath you learn from the example you set first? What does the public deserve to know about how cases are chosen for prosecution? What will the country be allowed to see at your own hands beyond what the law demands? Until next week, when we will speak of the passing of President Edgar Lungu and the work of reconciliation, hold these with me, Your Excellency. May God hold this country with both hands. Good night, Your Excellency. Good night, Zambia.